Welcome to the Be a Paid Speaker Now podcast. I'm your host and speaking coach, Deborah Deras, known as the top Latina peak performance speaker. This podcast is here to support you with strategies and best practices of paid speakers so you can find out what works and what doesn't, so you can achieve success with ease and grace in your speaking career. Enjoy the show. Are you always on the road speaking and your house is all alone collecting dust? Wouldn't it be nice to make some passive income while you're out speaking on the road? Well, I do. Want to know my secret? Airbnb. I use Airbnb to make some extra cash to reinvest in marketing for my speaking business. It's so simple. You just set up a listing and voila, you come home to money in your bank account on top of what you already made speaking. If you want to know more, go to the Be a Paid Speaker Now podcast.com to get all the information. Welcome back, and this is Deborah Deras, your hostess with the mostest, with an exciting episode because I have one of my favorite people in the world here, not just an amazing speaker, not just an amazing spiritual counselor, but she is my hermana, my sister. So please help me welcome Dr. Sirena Pelarolo, your midlife midwife. She is a board-certified holistic health coach and spiritual counselor, international author, and bilingual Latina speaker, radio host, and blogger. She has over 35 years of experience researching women's empowerment, mentoring thousands of students and clients, and facilitating women's circles. Sirena believes in a holistic approach to guiding women to navigate their career and life transitions successfully, drawing from her extensive training and experience in body, mind, and spirit connection. Her own midlife relaunch from college professor to midlife reinvention coach models for her clients how to courageously reinvent their lives by unleashing their unique personal power, creative self-expression, and hands-on genius. Welcome, Dr. Sirena.
Thank you so much, Deborah. I'm so excited to be on your show.
And I didn't even mention that she's also my coach. Even though I'm not midlife yet, I'm approaching it and I'm getting ahead of the curve. So she is coaching me, and it was just like one of the most amazing sessions I ever had, I think about 2 weeks ago. I'm still not over it. So I can vouch for how amazing and transformational she is. But before we talk about your speaking and all of the transformational work you do, let's talk about you. Who are you and where you're from, and how did you get to be who you are today?
Well, I was born in Buenos Aires in the 50s. And since I was a very young girl, I was interested in finding my own voice, my own authenticity. And that took trial and error because I was coming up in a very male-dominated society. So I learned the tools to become empowered. And since a very early age, I decided to share with as many women as I could what had helped me in my empowerment. And I took that interest to my academic career as a professor and a scholar. I did most of my research on women's empowerment, and I mentored thousands of women, mostly Latinas, because I was teaching at a modern languages department. I was teaching Latin American cultural studies. And I loved what I did. I was also a scholar activist, and I worked towards several causes with my students. And when I hit menopause, I started feeling a little disenchanted with the academic world. And I wanted to take my career, my message of women's empowerment outside of academia. So I became a holistic health coach. And I started a coaching practice using also my spiritual counseling training as a religious science practitioner at Agape, like you, Deborah.
That's where we met.
That's right, 20 years ago. And I brought together my experience, my research on women's empowerment, my spiritual journey and training as a counselor, and the body, mind, and spirit connection through holistic health into my practice as a coach. And I support midlife women to move through their transitions in a most empowered way.
And I'm just curious. I'm curious about so many things, but I have to
Yes.
keep it to one. So, one of the things you said was when you hit menopause, you decided that your career wasn't for you. What was it about menopause and that it was the time to make that transition? Because I know a lot of our listeners are transitioning from their corporate gig or being an entrepreneur to being a speaker.
Yes, and that's the root of my practice. Menopause, which marks the midlife passage into elderhood, let's say, or adulthood, or more than adulthood, is a portal of transformation for everybody, but I focus on women mostly. And I call it a portal of alchemic transformation, where what we're called for is to release anything that doesn't serve us anymore for the second stage of our life.
Really? I didn't
Yes.
know that.
That's why it's like alchemic. And that's why the hot flashes and the night sweats, it's like our body, our whole energetic field is getting heated up in order to melt away what doesn't serve anymore.
So alchemy, like transformation, transmutation.
That's right. Distilling the best of ourselves by releasing what doesn't serve us anymore.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
The women that I see with most symptoms in menopause are those who are clinging to old stuff that they don't need anymore. Marriages, careers, environments, houses.
So what you're saying is, I know this isn't a show on menopause, but let's talk about it. So what you're saying is that if you are in alignment and doing what you're supposed to do and you're happy in your relationships, you're happy in your career, that you'll have less symptoms of menopause?
What I'm saying, yes, that's for sure. But also what I'm saying is that menopause is asking us to release. So if we cling, if we're totally attached to things that we have outgrown, that will bring the symptoms.
So fascinating. And that's what you're talking about with the mind-body connection.
That's
so
right.
let's talk a little bit about how you got into all of your spiritual practice, because I know that's a big part of what you do with your women's retreats and with your speaking. Let's talk about that.
Yes, and my wise women's councils. Well, since I was a very young girl, I was very interested in poetry. So I read the whole corpus of Spanish poetry and English too. But I became fascinated by the mystics, St. John of the Cross and Santa Teresa de Jesus. So I was very drawn to mysticism, and I have had mystical experiences and interests throughout my life. When I became pregnant with my daughter Paloma, who's going to turn 35 now, I had this incredible pull to really go within myself, and I started meditating. I had a priest who was my confessor, but he had also lived in the monastery, so he taught me how to meditate. And that was 35 years ago. I was doing this totally alone in Argentina. And then when I came to this country, I was introduced to the Church of Religious Science, and I started going to first in Chico when I was a professor, and then when I moved to LA to Agape, and that was like it. I'm going to take all the classes, become a practitioner, and really dedicate my life to this spiritual counseling.
And the beautiful part of how she and I connected is every Wednesday night we would go to service, because it wasn't enough just on Sunday. We had to get a midweek dose of Align with the Divine. And I would always sit next to Sirena. I don't know if it was on purpose or just our energies, just feisty, spicy energy just connected us together. And we would hold hands and we would pray. And then we didn't see each other for 15 long years. And I was going through a divorce and a early midlife crisis. I had an early one. I got ahead of the curve. I think it was like at 35, I had my midlife. And then I let go of all that didn't serve and, became a speaker and everything like that. And then we reconnected. We were both speaking at a conference and we were looking at each other like, we need to connect. It was so awesome. And that's the synchronicity of life, that it puts you in the right place at the right time. And so how did you know that you wanted to do these women's councils and speaking and things like that?
Well, I had 15 years walking the red road of Native American spirituality. Oh. So I practice sweat lodges, and I have my medicine woman at the Tule River Reservation close to Bakersfield, close to the Sequoia National Park. So I've been going there for 15 years. So I was always very interested in the power of synergy, like you say, yes, of coming together in a sacred space and sharing with other women and supporting each other. So I took it from my experience and my training in those circles with women, Native women, and I adapted it to a Western way, and that's what I do.
But how did you make that transition going from years of being an educator, being a professor at a university, to suddenly you have no regular paycheck besides pension or whatever, and you're just having to make it on your own? Like, how do you even know how to get started there?
It was not easy. It was a trial and error again. I took a lot of business coaching trainings, and I learned, I just went on faith. When I decided to leave Los Angeles, where I was living the last year of my semi-retirement, I had this saying that went, I renounced everything to have it all. So I started selling everything, giving away everything, even my beloved library. I had an incredible library that I just got rid of. And it was just because I needed to renounce to everything to have it all. I didn't know what all was at that time, but I just went for it. And I knew that I wanted to dedicate my full time to coaching and to being with supporting women in midlife to move through their challenges, because my ultimate goal is to change the world. And I think that these women, we have so much experience, so much knowledge, that if we are able to release that baggage that keeps us stuck, we can be the agents of change in this world. We can midwife, like Reverend Michael Beckwith likes to say, we can midwife a new loving, egalitarian, cooperative way of living on this planet. So that's my ultimate goal.
Wow. So that's your vision. A new way of people living where it's egalitarian and that they're going to be in alignment with who they are.
That's right.
So amazing. I just feel the power of that, and how everything that you've studied, everything that was your natural interest, from poetry to spirituality to the Native American culture and your own Latin culture, to get you to where you are. So when you go to like a retreat of yours, like what are the types of things that you do or that you facilitate, or what are the benefits that people get from being with you?
I am very interested in working with women going through their transitions. And there's an art in supporting women or men or whoever going through transitions. And I was able to become certified with a very good tool, which I call the wisdom, Nature's Wisdom Map, which is for the 4 seasons. So each season has a different life work to do and different challenges and different opportunities. So I usually use that map to support women to identify what is the work that they need to do, and then catch the vision for going into spring, which is the inspired action into the new life that they're stepping into.
Oh, so spring is inspired action?
Yes.
So every season has a different quality?
Yes. Like, for example, summer is the time when we get to shine. We're in a fit in the world where we're putting all our energy, we're excited, we're learning, we're growing. Fall is a time of disenchantment. Like when I became disenchanted with academia, I was still there, but I needed something else. Winter is the dark night of the soul that everybody tries to avoid. Right. But it's a very important time, because that's the time when in nature, the sap goes into the roots and it reinvigorates and re-energizes the trees. So we need that time of self-discovery. And when we catch the vision, we're ready to take inspired action in the spring and get into synchronicity and learning more and going into our reinvention.
Oh, no wonder spring is my favorite season. I love inspired action. So when people started booking you to speak, I know last week you were doing a sermon somewhere, and I followed up on something that I referred to you. They're like, oh yeah, we got to book her. So how did you know like how to charge as a speaker and the business of speaking?
Well, I have a coach that's fantastic, Deborah Deras, for anyone who's interested. And my big challenge has been how to move from being a scholar to being a more of a transformational, motivational speaker.
Right.
Because I have 35 years of speaking experience, met mostly academically when I was reading my papers, and as an academic, it's very interesting. What I did was very interesting, but to get into my heart.
You got cut off for a second. So when you said as an academic?
As an academic, I said we just hide behind the knowledge or the research or the jargon sometimes, the theory. But to be a speaker that's going to be motivating people or transforming people, I needed to get away from my head and go into my heart.
Right.
And my daughter Paloma, who has always been my coach also, she would say, Mom, you're being too pompous. Just tone it down. Be more conversational, because I was so used to using all that jargon. So it's been a journey. And the challenge was not to throw away the baby with the bathwater, because I had learned a lot. So I'm trying to integrate everything now in my speaking.
Dr. Sirena, I can relate so much to you, because for 16 years, I was a professor. Mm-hmm. And when I was starting as a professor, I was in my late 20s, and I was like, no one's going to take me seriously. I'm younger than them. So I cut my hair really short, so I would be like more mature or something like that. But I was speaking in jargon. And so when I first went to speak and be a keynote speaker, people were giving me feedback. You're unrelatable. Nobody speaks like that. And they were also saying, be yourself, because I wasn't being myself when I first started speaking. I was being who I thought they wanted to be, as someone with knowledge or someone with wisdom, because people would often second guess my intelligence for whatever reason. They thought, oh, she's just a happy, cute girl. They never thought that I knew what I was talking about until I started speaking. So I would always over intellectualize everything that I was saying to prove myself. And it wasn't until I think 5 years into my speaking that I said, forget that. As you know what you would say, forget that. I'm just going to be me. And if I'm silly, if I'm fun, if I'm dancing, whatever it is, because that's how people were able to relate to me. And whether it was judges or they just found it more entertaining. It was still educational, but it was edutational.
You're still a source of inspiration for me, because your bubbliness and you're always being passionate and energetic. That is something that I really admire about you.
Oh, thank you so much. And my first company was called Passionate Living Now. But when people heard that, they're like, passion? What is this about? And I was, okay, forget it. We need to redirect you. And so it became Synergy. So when it comes to your retreats and everything, how is it that you promote it, or what gives you the inspiration to have that kind of retreat? Because it seems to me like with all that you do with wisdom circles and the Native American and the spiritual, that being in a sacred space and being in that sacred setting, it's just so amazing. So how do you get the inspiration for that?
Yes, the most important thing for me is to be in nature, so that the work that we do indoors, we can take it outside and be in that container that's the beauty and the wisdom of nature, and be able to listen to whatever messages we get from nature. And to go to sacred spaces, like you say, because what I basically create is a rite of passage, a rebirth. That's why I call myself a midlife midwife, because my work is to help them rebirth. Help them go through that birth canal into the new version of themselves. So it is a rite of passage, and I use a lot of ceremony and ritual and journaling and dance, movement.
And I love that you define that, because prior to speaking to you, I thought, oh, well, midlife, that's a bad thing. And, you have all your beauty and your youth and your energy when you're young. But what you're saying is you actually go in letting go of anything that doesn't serve, and you're your best self.
That's right. That's right.
So it's something to look forward to rather than
exactly.
to dread.
That's what I try to tell my clients. The best is yet to come. There's an incredible freedom in finishing the cycle of the childbearing cycle and going into menopause and post-menopause. There's an incredible freedom. And what I noticed, I'm 64 right now, is that each decade we become freer. it's like, who cares? This is my truth, and this is what I'm going to do.
Oh my God. Speaking of freer, my grandmother, when she was like 85, she just didn't care anymore. And if she saw a guy that she thought was cute, she would be like, "You are fine. And I was born too soon." I was like, "Grandma, stop picking up on everybody." But then I realized it was because she just didn't care anymore. And she was
That's right.
who she was. And Oprah did a panel. I think she had Jane Fonda, and they were talking about each decade and how every decade, not only do you have the wisdom and the knowledge and the experience from the decade before, but it's just even better.
Yes, I happened to be in a store where they were selling yarn, and there was this group of ladies, probably 70s and 80s, knitting. The conversation was so outstanding because they were like, who cares anymore about anything? They were hilarious. It's fun to be around older women when they come together.
Yeah, because the truth is, and this is for anyone, is that not to sweat the small stuff. And we do not know how long our life is going to be and what midlife is for us. I had two friends in their 50s recently pass away. Two best friends pass away at 52 and 55. So we really need to live our life fully and completely. And if speaking is something that's calling you, if you feel that you are the messenger for that message, then now is the time. And I bring wonderful examples like Dr. Sirena as examples. So if you've been in a field for 30 years and you've never done speaking, but that's being called to your heart, what Dr. Sirena says is have faith, trust that you're going to be led to the right place at the right time to fulfill your talent, skills, and abilities. Any last thoughts and wisdom for new speakers starting out?
Yeah, I think that what you were just saying is very important. Just follow your heart, follow your intuition, follow your vision, and just do whatever needs to be done and take that leap of faith that will take you to a better place without just trusting that that is what you need to do.
And that is a recurring theme from almost all my guests on the show, to listen to your intuition. I call it our IGS, or intuitive guidance system, just like we have a GPS in the car. And I think that is one of the things that I always call myself to do even more of. And I know you coach me on that as my spiritual counselor, to be still, to listen, to hear, and then take the inspired action. But we get so busy, and I just need to hustle. I need to book these gigs.
That's right.
And I need to run around. It is in that place that you become stuck and stagnant because you're holding on to an old way of doing things that's sacrifice and suffering. Don't get me started. I'll start giving a speech on it.
That's right.
We align for success through our intuition, and you're such a beautiful example. And I'm so grateful because we are doing our retreat next year in Peru.
That's right. At Catalina.
It was Serena's vision, and she came up to me and she's like, I'm doing this retreat, that retreat. We should do something together. And then out of the blue, my friend decided to, in his midlife, sell all his stuff, move to Peru, and start a retreat center. His mom, Catalina, had passed away. He started it. And then as soon as Serena said, let's do the retreat, like a couple months later, he messaged me, would you like to do a retreat at my retreat center? And then somebody messaged me, can I come to your retreat? I'm like, we haven't even visioned it yet, but it's already done. And that's what it is when you have faith and you take inspired action. It could just all come together. You just have to be available for it, right?
That's right.
So we'll be inviting you to the retreat. It's going to be coming up next year, 2020. What a great time to be in Peru.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So thank you so much. Where can people stay in touch with you if they want to hire you for coaching, hire you for speaking?
Well, I am, there's a new website that's being in the process of being made and posted. It's bilingual latinaspeaker.com.
Ooh la la, I love it. Bilingual latinaspeaker.com.
But the one that's on already is my name, sirenapelarolo.com. SIRENAPELLAROLO.
Pelarolo. I love
That's right.
It's like a mantra, just saying your name. So thank you so much for making the time to be here. We so appreciate you. You're such a light. I could listen to your voice 24/7. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me, Deborah.
My pleasure. And thank you all for tuning in. I want you to listen to the insights, to the nuggets of information that we shared with you, and for you to take that inspired action. If you have something that's tugging at your heart, listen to your intuition and have the faith like Dr. Sirena. Go forward because you are the messenger for a very important message. Ciao. Thank you for tuning into the Be a Paid Speaker Now podcast. If you want to be a paid speaker right now, you can download the 5 steps to get started as a paid speaker right on my website. Just go to deborahderas.com/speak now. And remember, with the power of synergy, anything is possible.